Welcome to the Edinburgh International Book Festival and to Story Shop 2016 here in the Spiegel tent. My name is Rebecca and I work with the Edinburgh City of Literature Trust. In 2004, Edinburgh was designated the first City of Literature by UNESCO World Heritage, and ever since then the Trust has been working devotedly to not only promote literature in all its many and wonderful forms within the city, but to discover and nurture new and emerging writing talent, which is why we're here today. And today's speaker will be Anne Hamilton. Anne has a PhD in creative writing from the University of Glasgow and is the editor of the online magazine Lothian Life. Anne's previous career in community health inspired her non-fiction travel blog, A Blonde Bengali Wife. Anne has also won the New Asian Writing Short Story Competition and was shortlisted for a Fresher Writing Prize. So will everybody please join me in welcoming Anne Hamilton to the stage today.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you everybody for coming this afternoon.
Yeah, that's how it's moving.
The Merry Dancers. They had reached that time of the afternoon when the spring sun played Catch Me If You Can amongst the trees and bowed low in the sky. Ida turned her head right, then left, brightness and shadow a mottled dancing harlequin on the insides of her eyelids. She could sense Richard glancing over at her. She knew he only saw nerves in her restlessness. They hadn't spoken much since Inverness. She had worn her dark glasses and he probably thought she was dozing. She had been, on and off. Decades hung unspoken between them. He cleared his throat. The house is just ahead, Isla. 5 minutes tops. A long, shivery inhalation and another, sharp as contraction, sliced through her. The journey had tricked her, motorways and fast cars replacing the leisurely twists and turns of the country lanes that were once her markers. Stop! We have to stop! Isla heard her old lady whine, but Caithness was at the outer reaches of her world now. This was too soon. I need a cigarette anyway, Richard said. It was kind of him to pretend, she thought, as he changed gear and bumped the car onto the grass verge. It was 40 years more since she had been this far north, and it still felt too soon. You mean it's too late, others had corrected her. For days and weeks that might have been centuries, she'd weaned herself until a song, a scent, a casual word nibbled her new life's edges. It still did, only now it didn't break her. They, that's Richard and Paula, Isla's daughter, they described how village life Isla remembered was becoming vibrant now. Their children were secure there in a 2-teacher primary school. A new co-op sat on the redundant cattle market. She would like to have seen the changes, not for her those rose-tinted nostalgia that stalked her contemporaries. Way back then, particularly with a husband and 2 children, her freedom became isolation, became her prison. She wasn't bitter anymore, it was what it was, and she was glad for her family that the community had come respectably of age. Everyone remembers that gold standard summer of 1976, don't they? Isla believed so. Her hair, it was filed far too grandly in the chronological misery of JFK, Elvis Presley, Mrs. Thatcher's accession, and Princess Diana. It was the summer when the colour in Isla's life started fading, and that life changed forever. Not with a false book-blurred kind of promise she'd tell people, but literally. Blurred by time, it was all chicken and egg now though. Jack's crankiness, her aching head, their combined oddities of behaviour. Isla's memories flashed past like the view from an express train. She fumbled to release her seatbelt and open the car door. Richard? She called. He hadn't gone far. She could smell the smoke and suddenly she craved it. Light me one, she said. Paula will kill me if she finds out. He was handing over the cigarette even as he said it. Not today she won't. Any day but today. They both knew it. They were complacent as they inhaled. Haven't lost the knack of that, Isla thought. We could walk from here, Richard said, if you want to. Yes. Yes, please. She did. Oh, she did. Sometimes Richard was more guardian angel than son-in-law. He took her arm and they moved slowly. Isla knew it was fanciful, but she could feel the house drawing her in. It was neither Mandalay nor River Cottage. It never had been. But there was warmth in that blandness. She carried an ancient snapshot in her head. Sturdy pre-teen twins posing on stone steps. The garden bleached and burned with drought. In Scotland, imagine! They'd laughed at the very idea of that. In the background then, the house was a cool and benign shelter for Paula, smiling shyly. For Ian, with his hands in his pockets, bored. And Jack, still the old Jack, just standing between them. The paintwork, they told her now, continued to fight a losing battle against the North Sea, and Paula had finished the front door a rude orange, an artistic two-fingered salute to the elements. But the rotting sash windows had given way to aluminium frames, and the unruly creeper was long outlawed. Isla sniffed the air. Their tobacco shame was gone, and she strained to catch the smell of freshly cut hay, then to hear the trickle of water from the hidden stream. Her memories lurked in the trees like the ghosts of whispered stories past. They had made their imprint on this house. Their secrets lay in its walls. The draughty cavernous kitchen, the attic bedroom where Jack first took her into his arms, unzipping her best taffeta dress to fall to an inky pool at her ankles. Somewhere, lost on the wind, she heard bright snatches of little children's voices. Ian insisted his hair was receding now, but he'd grown stout. Paula complained she was not the beauty Isla imagined. Isla knew better, a mother's privilege. "We tried," she said out loud. She almost stamped her foot. "Dear God, we tried until the day we ran out of things to try." "I know." Richard squeezed her arm. What else was there to do? The unthinkable, she thought, and that's what they'd done. They rented out the old farmhouse and they ran. They lived in worried transit in Glasgow before settling, more or less, in London's claustrophobic security. It took 2 more years for the colours in Isla's life to fade completely. She was doped to hell when she saw them last, flat on her back whilst the 3 of them lined up in a dim row beside her, smiling rigidly. She wanted to hold out her arms and hug them, her beloved son and daughter, Jack as well, but the distance was already too great. She shut them out of her life until even that snapshot in her head faded to sepia. "Stop all the clocks," the poem said. Isla had. When she lost the sight she'd taken so much for granted, she made herself into an island, invisible with the density of icy waters. She stood still for an eternity. Then falteringly she carved out a new life for herself. A happy life. She and Jack divorced, which would have happened anyway. And first Paula, then Ian, grown up and with their own families, returned home. Home. Isla was released from the role of protector that burdened her even as she craved it. She was comfortable enough being a grandmother, great-grandmother almost, who was blind, but a wife? A mother? Never. "I'm glad you and Paula took on the house." Isla stopped and turned her face to Richard, but she was talking to herself mostly. "It's a different place now, with a new identity, and that is how I approach it." She said it before, but so what? She was an old woman now, and old women repeat themselves. Richard stopped walking exactly when she knew he would. "Isla?" Nervousness, the dog with a cold nose, nudged her. "Isla? You're home." And suddenly the merry dancers swooped. A rippling blanket of silky green shot across the sky, a swirling red and purple fringe in its wake. The Northern Lights. The Northern Lights as Isla saw them last, and the only colour in her life for 4 decades since. It happened at rare times of heightened emotion and was, the doctor said, impossible. It was her imagination, not her sight. Does it matter, she'd asked. It was a signpost either way. A delight. Paula must have been watching, so soon was she by their sides. Isla touched her daughter's face, traced the wetness of tears. Welcome home, Mum, was all Paula said, a hitch in her throat. They linked arms easily, years of practice behind them, and automatically Isla counted the wide, smooth steps up to the front door. The paint smelled fresh. Perhaps the echo of their feet on the tiles and the coolness of the hall was familiar. Isla stood still and let the last of the merry dancers fade. They left behind them the aura of a polished, flowery scent, one grown elusive over the years. Beeswax, Isla murmured. Beeswax. And daffodils. Recognition was bittersweet, intense pleasure and pain. In those seconds, at least, Isla had come home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. What a truly lovely story. And if you would like to hear from any more of our story shop writers, we will be here every day in the Spiegel tent at 3 p.m. from now on up until the end of the festival. And tomorrow's writer will be Heather Parry. So, before everybody goes, we have laid out some feedback cards on the tables in front of you, and we would greatly appreciate it if you can spare the time, if you'd be able to let us know what it is you love about storytelling and events such as this. But don't feel that you have to fill in all the personal details, just feedback would be brilliant. So hopefully we will see you in the coming days of the festival, and have a really lovely day. So goodbye.